The sun was setting over the sprawling city of Neoterra, casting long golden shadows over the metal and glass towers. In the distance, the launch bay shimmered under the fading light, a massive hangar holding humanity's newest marvel, the Aquila, a sleek, silver interstellar vehicle built for the first long-range journey beyond the familiar borders of the solar system. Captain Elias Wren stood beside the vehicle, his hands resting on the smooth metal surface. His eyes traced the curves of the ship, following the lines that marked decades of human engineering and ingenuity. He could feel the hum of its systems beneath his fingertips, almost as if the ship had a heartbeat of its own. Elias had flown many ships before, some on daring missions, others simple cargo runs. But this was different. This was the beginning of humanity reaching out to the stars, testing the limits of what a human being could endure and achieve. "Still fussing over every panel?" a voice called from behind. Elias turned and smiled. Lyra stepped into view, her jumpsuit slightly dusty from her latest work in the hangar. She carried a toolkit slung over her shoulder, a habit she never gave up, even on missions she didn't officially belong on. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, the kind that only someone who loved challenges could carry. "Someone has to make sure this beauty doesn't explode on takeoff," Elias teased, running a hand through his hair. "I wouldn't want history to remember me as the guy who destroyed humanity's first interstellar prototype." Lyra laughed, the sound echoing in the empty hangar. "You're dramatizing again. It's a machine. Elias, machines are replaceable. Humans are a lot harder to fix." Elias smirked. "I like to think humans are more adaptable, smarter too. Sometimes a machine can't react to things the way a person can. That's where we come in." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Ah, so you're saying we're indispensable?" "Exactly." He grinned, giving her a playful look. "Which reminds me, there's room for both of us in the car if you want to come along." Lyra's smile widened, soft and knowing. "Wherever you go, I'll be right behind," she said quietly. The words weren't just a joke. They were a promise that no matter how dangerous the stars might be, she would follow. And in that moment, Elias felt a warmth he hadn't admitted even to himself. The hangar doors opened with a low rumble, revealing the endless expanse of the night sky. Stars glimmered like diamonds scattered on black velvet, and the city lights below twinkled faintly. It was breathtaking, a reminder of why humans had always looked up with wonder and curiosity. Elias climbed into the cockpit, the familiar smell of electronics and polished metal greeting him. He sat in the pilot's seat, adjusting controls that were responsive to touch, thought, and intuition. The Aquila was unlike any other ship he had flown. Its AI-assisted systems were advanced, but designed to amplify human instinct rather than replace it. That was the key to this mission. Human skill at the center of interstellar travel. Lyra climbed in behind him, setting her toolkit down. She moved quickly, checking systems, scanning energy outputs, and running diagnostics with practiced efficiency. Elias watched her, noting the way her hands danced over the console, how her eyes darted from screen to screen. There was no hesitation, only focus and confidence. She was humanity's best, in every sense of the word. "Ready?" Elias asked, his voice calm but edged with excitement. "Always," Lyra replied, her fingers flying across the panels. The engines hummed to life, a deep, resonant sound that filled the hangar. The vibrations ran through the floor, and Elias felt it in his chest. Aquila was alive, awake, waiting for them to take it into the void. "Trajectory set," Lyra said, looking up at him. "Fuel levels optimal, life support nominal, all systems green. We're good to go." Elias nodded, gripping the controls. "Engaging launch sequence." Outside, the city's lights blurred as the hangar's magnetic clamps released the ship. Slowly at first, Then, with accelerating speed, the Aquila lifted into the night sky, leaving Neoterra behind. The planet shrank below them, a beautiful blue and green marble in the darkness. Above, the stars stretched into infinity. As they ascended, Elias allowed himself a moment to think about what this meant. For centuries, humans had dreamed of leaving their cradle. They had explored their own solar system, sent probes to distant planets, and learned the secrets of their sun and moons. But no human had yet ventured beyond the safe bounds of known space, where unknown dangers waited. "Do you ever get scared?" Lyra asked quietly, breaking his thoughts. Elias considered this. "Sure," he admitted. "Every time I fly, there's a moment when fear whispers in my ear, but I don't listen to it. Humans are built to survive, to adapt. That's what makes us special. Fear is natural, but courage is what we choose." Lyra nodded, understanding. "Good thing I'm right behind you then." He smiled. There was truth in that. She wasn't just a passenger, she was a partner, someone who made him better, smarter, stronger. Their connection was subtle, unspoken, yet undeniable. It was humanity in microcosm. Humans thrive not alone, but together. The first hours of the journey were smooth. The earth receded into a swirl of color, the atmosphere thinning as the Aquila pushed further into space. Elias kept his hands steady on the controls, but his mind wandered to the possibilities awaiting them. Unknown worlds, undiscovered phenomena, and perhaps first contact with life beyond their solar system. Each star was a question, and humanity was determined to answer. Lyra monitored the sensors, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We're approaching the first waypoint," she announced. "This is where most automated ships slow down, calibrate, and prepare for the next leg." Elias glanced at her, curiosity in his eyes. "But we're not most ships." "No, we're human ships," she replied with a smile. "We do things differently. We rely on instinct, on quick thinking, on imagination." He chuckled. "Imagination has gotten humanity into trouble plenty of times." "True," Lyra said, "but it's also gotten us out of trouble. Every invention, every discovery, every step into the unknown, that's human imagination at work." As they passed the first waypoint, a faint signal appeared on the sensors. Elias squinted at the readouts. "Unidentified energy cluster," he said. "Nothing like we've seen before." Lyra leaned forward, analyzing the data. "Could be debris from an asteroid collision, or something else. Either way, it's close enough to study." Elias grinned. "Sounds like our kind of problem." Hours passed, and the darkness of space wrapped around them. The stars seemed endless, an ocean of possibilities. Elias and Lyra worked side by side, piloting, monitoring, and communicating. Their voices were calm, steady, carrying the unshakable confidence of humans who trusted in each other's skills. At one point, Elias caught Lyra looking out the viewport, her expression thoughtful. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "About how small we are," she said softly. "And yet, we've built this. We're here. Against all odds, humans made it to the edge of known space. That's incredible." Elias nodded. "That's what I love about us. We don't wait for things to happen. We make them happen. We take the first step, no matter the risk." She smiled, a quiet warmth in her eyes. "And I'll be right behind you." Elias felt a surge of pride and gratitude. That simple statement, a promise, captured everything about humanity: courage, loyalty, resilience, and the willingness to face the unknown together. The Aquila continued its journey, leaving the comfort of familiar space behind. Ahead lay mystery, danger, and discovery. But Elias and Lyra were ready. Together they would meet whatever awaited them, armed with human ingenuity, instinct, and heart. As the stars stretched into the infinite black, Elias leaned back in his seat and whispered to himself, a smile on his face, "Let's see what humans can do." Lyra's voice came softly over the calm, echoing the sentiment. "Wherever you go, I'll be right behind." And with that, humanity's first true adventure into the stars began. The Aquila moved steadily through the dark ocean of space. Stars glimmered like scattered jewels, their light painting the cockpit in faint, cold colors. Elias Rehn adjusted the controls with practiced ease, the hum of the ship beneath him a familiar comfort. Beside him, Lyra's fingers never stopped moving, checking sensors, recalibrating instruments, and analyzing every signal. "Elias," Lyra said suddenly, her voice calm but sharp, "I'm picking up an anomaly ahead, something moving fast. It doesn't match any known asteroid or comet pattern." Elias squinted at the display. "How fast?" "Too fast for natural objects," she replied. "It's approaching our path. We need to decide now whether to reroute or face it head-on." Elias's fingers hovered over the controls. He could veer off course and avoid it, but human curiosity, the same trait that had driven humanity to explore the stars, pushed him forward. "Let's see what it is first," he said. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but be ready. Whatever it is, it's unpredictable." As the Aquila approached, the object became clear, a field of small, jagged asteroids swirling and spinning at incredible speed. It was a rogue cluster, untethered by any gravitational pattern that humans had studied. Automated navigation systems would avoid it, but they could not anticipate the chaos within. This was the kind of situation where human skill could make a difference. "Manual piloting," Elias said, his eyes sharp. "We'll need to guide Aquila through it." Lyra's fingers flew across the controls, adjusting shields and energy distribution. "Hull integrity at 98%. Life support systems stable. Let's make history, Captain." Elias grinned. "After you, engineer." The ship dove into the asteroid field, weaving between jagged rocks that threatened to tear through the hull. Each maneuver required split-second decisions, instinct, and courage. Automated ships would hesitate, freeze, or reroute, but Elias trusted his intuition and Lyra's expertise. Together, they became a single entity, a combination of human mind and skill, improvising where machines could not. A rock the size of a building loomed ahead. Elias swerved sharply, Lyra's calculations guiding him through the narrow gap. Sparks flew as small debris struck the ship's hull, and alarms blared. The human mind, with its ability to react, improvise, and adapt, proved far more capable than any pre-programmed algorithm. 80% integrity, Lyra shouted, adjusting shields to deflect a spinning rock. "Hold on!" Elias called, twisting the controls. The Aquila darted left, narrowly avoiding a collision. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, each second filled with tension and adrenaline. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the danger passed. The asteroid field fell behind them, leaving the ship and its human crew intact. Both of them exhaled, their faces wet with sweat and relief. "That was close," Lyra said, her voice still tense. Elias laughed softly, the thrill still coursing through him. "Close? That was exhilarating. Humans are born for moments like this." Lyra rolled her eyes, but smiled. "I'll give you exhilaration. But don't forget we could have been shredded." "True," he admitted. "But surviving makes the story worth telling. That's what humans do. We face impossible odds and find a way through." Their eyes met, a shared understanding passing between them. Humans were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most numerous species in the universe, but they were resilient, adaptable, brave, and in moments like this, it showed. As the Aquila continued its journey, a faint signal appeared on the sensors, repeating, rhythmic, unmistakably artificial. Elias's brow furrowed. "Lyra, do you see that?" he asked. She leaned forward, scanning the data. "It's not like anything we've encountered, definitely intelligent, not natural, and it's moving toward us." Elias's pulse quickened. This was what they had trained for, the possibility of contact with something beyond humanity's understanding. "Prepare communications," he said. "We'll try to signal. Let's show them who humans are." Lyra nodded. She tapped into the ship's communication array, sending a simple, coded transmission. The reply was almost immediate, a series of patterns that twisted and shifted faster than she could decode, but she didn't panic. Humans had always solved impossible problems through creativity and persistence. "Not a language we know," she said aloud, more to herself than Elias. "But we'll understand it. We always do." Elias glanced at her, admiration in his eyes. "Human ingenuity. You never stop." They spent hours analyzing the alien signal, working together, human intuition guiding each decision. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. It wasn't just random pulses, it was communication, a complex sequence that suggested intelligence, awareness, and curiosity. Humans were not machines. Their minds were fluid, imaginative, and capable of recognizing patterns where algorithms struggled. By the time the first day of their journey passed, Elias and Lyra had deciphered enough to respond. Their transmission was simple, a human signature, a small display of Earth's location, and an invitation to meet. It was a bold move, but humans were bold by nature. The response came hours later. The patterns shifted into a shape that almost resembled a face, abstract but deliberate. The message was clear. The aliens were curious. They wanted to see the humans. "Looks like we've made contact," Elias said, a mixture of awe and excitement in his voice. Lyra leaned back, her eyes reflecting the stars outside. "And they'll remember us. Humans are unforgettable when we decide to be." As they adjusted their course toward the source of the signal, a new challenge arose. A gravitational anomaly appeared, a ripple in space-time that threatened to pull the Aquila off course. Automated navigation would fail here. Only human instinct, combined with careful calculation, could save them. Elias's hands gripped the controls. "Lyra, I'll need your calculations to keep us steady. We're going through." She tapped into the sensors, running simulations and feeding him real-time adjustments. "Keep your focus. Trust your instincts. We'll ride it together." The anomaly twisted around them, tugging at the ship, shaking it violently. Alarms blared as systems struggled against the stress. Elias's knuckles whitened as he fought the controls, feeling the ship's vibrations as if it were alive, protesting against the chaos. Lyra's voice guided him, calm and steady. "Tilt starboard by 3 degrees. Now adjust power to the aft thrusters. Good. Good. Hold it." Together, human skill and intuition tamed the anomaly. The Aquila emerged intact, the stars once again stretching infinitely ahead. Elias exhaled, letting the tension drain. "You know," Lyra said with a small laugh, "most species would have panicked or left the area entirely. Humans, we just make it part of the adventure." Elias grinned. "Exactly. We don't just survive. We adapt. We overcome. That's what makes us human." The ship glided into a calm region of space, and for a moment they allowed themselves to relax. The journey had begun with chaos, but it had also revealed something essential. Human courage and ingenuity were their greatest assets. Machines could calculate, systems could respond, but humans could create, improvise, and persist. That made them extraordinary. Lyra leaned back in her seat, looking at Elias. "You know, the stars aren't so lonely when you have someone right behind you." Elias smiled. "And the universe isn't so intimidating either, as long as humans lead the way." As they sailed through the silent, glittering expanse, the first real signs of life beyond the solar system beckoned. The alien signals were no longer distant echoes. They were invitations. And for the first time, Elias and Lyra felt the true scope of humanity's place in the cosmos. Not small, not fragile, but daring, intelligent, and unafraid. Hours turned into days, and the Aquila continued its steady progress. The stars remained constant, but with each passing moment, the unknown grew closer. Elias and Lyra shared jokes, memories, and quiet moments of reflection. The human spirit was alive in every maneuver, every calculation, every choice they made. And deep down, both of them knew, no matter what waited ahead, humans would face it together. Together, they would show the universe that when humans dared to reach, they reached with courage, wit, and heart. The first trial was over, but the journey, and the real adventure, had only just begun. The Aquila moved silently through the dark expanse of space, stars streaking past like frozen rivers of light. Captain Elias Wren and Lyra had spent days navigating unknown regions, following the mysterious signals that had appeared during their first trial. Every hour brought new data, new anomalies, and a growing sense that humanity was no longer alone. Elias stood in the cockpit, watching the screens with focused eyes. "Lyra, the readings are stabilizing," he said. "Whatever this is, it's not natural. It's intelligent, and it's waiting." Lyra nodded, her fingers dancing over the touch panels. "I can't identify its structure completely, but it doesn't resemble any known vessel. Not human, not anything recorded in our databases. It's organic, almost alive, but built with technology we can barely comprehend." Elias's heart pounded. "This is it. First contact. The real test of human skill and courage." Lyra took a deep breath. "And our ingenuity." As the Aquila approached the source of the signals, a massive shape emerged from the void. It was enormous, twisting in impossible geometries, a floating lattice of organic and metallic material. Lights pulsed across its surface in rhythmic patterns, casting strange reflections across the cockpit. The aliens were vast, their technology unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Yet, in the midst of the unknown, Elias felt a familiar thrill. The human desire to explore, to learn, to adapt. The ship's sensors buzzed. The alien vessel was sending patterns of light and energy, a language of thought and rhythm. Lyra analyzed the signals carefully. "It's trying to communicate, not through sound or radio, something deeper, more complex. Machines alone wouldn't understand it. We'll need human intuition to decode it." Elias nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Humans have a way of solving impossible puzzles." The Aquila edged closer, the alien vessel responding with synchronized pulses. It was a dance, a silent dialogue between two species. Lyra began to interpret the patterns, looking for meaning in their rhythm and structure. Slowly, she detected a repeated sequence, a greeting of sorts. "It's aware of us," she said softly. "It knows we're here. And it's curious." Elias smiled. "Good. Curiosity is the first step toward understanding. Humans have always thrived on curiosity." He adjusted the ship's position carefully, bringing the Aquila to a stable hover near the alien vessel. "Let's send a simple response," he said. "Something basic. A human signature, our location, and a greeting. We don't know what it's thinking, but we need to show that humans are capable of communication and understanding." Lyra nodded, fingers moving across the console. "Message ready. Simple patterns. Repeated. Non-threatening. Clear. Ready to send." Elias took a deep breath. "Send it." The response traveled as a series of carefully calculated pulses, designed to be interpreted through logic, rhythm, and repetition. The alien vessel reacted instantly, its lights shifting in new patterns. Lyra analyzed the change, her eyes widening. It's responding, it understands, or at least it's processing, and it's mirroring our sequence. That's a good sign. Trust-building behavior. Elias felt a surge of pride. This is human ingenuity at work. We don't just build machines. We adapt, we think, we learn. That's why we're here. Hours passed as the exchange continued. Lyra and Elias worked tirelessly, interpreting signals, testing responses, and observing reactions. Every successful match strengthened the connection. It was slow, painstaking work, but the human mind, flexible, creative, persistent, proved perfect for the task. Finally, a new pattern emerged. Unlike anything they had seen before, it resembled a face, abstract, angular, but deliberate. Elias studied it closely. It's trying to communicate identity, not words, not numbers, but something like self-recognition. It knows it is alive, and now it knows we are alive too. Lyra's fingers hovered over the console. We need to respond carefully. This is critical. If we make a mistake, it might withdraw, or worse, misunderstand us. Elias nodded. Humans have always faced the unknown, and we always adapt. Let's show it that humans are capable of empathy and reasoning. They sent a new message, one that combined patterns with pauses, imitating the way humans expressed intention and awareness. The alien vessel's lights shifted again, slower this time, deliberate. Lyra analyzed every movement, searching for meaning. It's inviting us closer. This is unprecedented. It's giving us permission to approach. Elias's heart raced. Then we take it, slowly, carefully. The Aquila advanced, its engines whispering through space as it glided toward the alien structure. The vessel seemed to react, extending tendrils of light and energy, forming corridors and openings that hinted at internal chambers. Elias and Lyra felt a thrill of awe and responsibility. Humans were stepping into a world that had never been touched by their kind, and every action mattered. Lyra glanced at Elias. This is it. First contact in person, not just signals. We need to be ready for anything. Elias gave a small nod. We are humans, adaptable, resourceful, and brave. That's enough. As the Aquila entered a designated opening, the interior of the alien vessel unfolded before them. The walls shimmered with living light, pulsing in harmony with the patterns they had been exchanging. The atmosphere was alien but breathable, filtered through the ship's advanced life support. Every surface seemed to shift subtly, responding to their presence. The aliens' technology was alive, aware, and yet strangely welcoming. Suddenly, a beam of light focused on the Aquila, scanning it in a precise, intelligent pattern. Lyra and Elias held their breath. The vessel was examining them, trying to understand the human form, the human mind. And in that moment, Elias realized something extraordinary. Humans were not just explorers. They were interpreters, negotiators, and ambassadors by nature. Machines could calculate, but humans could empathize, improvise, and inspire trust. Lyra spoke softly. It's observing, learning from us. Elias nodded. And we're learning from it. Humans have always thrived in new environments. That's why we're here. That's what makes us special. The vessel's lights shifted again, forming shapes that suggested curiosity and cautious welcome. Lyra interpreted the sequence, her mind racing. It's offering guidance, showing us pathways through its structure. This is trust, Elias. It trusts us enough to show us inside. Elias's pulse quickened. Humans deserve this moment. We've faced danger, uncertainty, and the unknown, and we've reached it with courage, wit, and heart. Together, they navigated the interior, guided by the alien signals. The corridors twisted and shimmered, alive with energy and intelligence. The vessel was unlike anything humans had built or imagined, yet they moved through it with confidence. Human instinct, intuition, and intelligence allowed them to interpret shapes, movements, and signals that no machine could decipher. At the heart of the vessel, they found a central chamber, a vast space filled with floating, luminous forms that pulsed in synchronized patterns. Elias and Lyra stood in awe, understanding that these forms were the consciousness of the alien species, a collective intelligence expressed as living energy. Lyra whispered, "We're standing among them, alive, aware, present. Humans have never been here before." Elias looked at her, a small smile forming. "And they'll remember us. Humans always leave a mark when we reach out with respect, courage, and ingenuity." The aliens responded to their presence with a gentle, flowing pulse, a display of curiosity and acknowledgement. Humans were not just observers, they were participants, partners in this first true interstellar dialogue. Hours passed in silent exchange. They shared ideas through patterns, mimicked movements, and demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and trustworthiness. The alien consciousness absorbed every gesture, every calculation, every human thought expressed in the ways they could understand. And with each passing moment, it became clear humans were remarkable, not because of technology alone, but because of their spirit, ingenuity, and empathy. Finally, Elias turned to Lyra. "This is what I wanted us to see. Humans are more than explorers. We are problem solvers, negotiators, learners. And in moments like this, nothing is impossible for us." Lyra smiled, tired but exhilarated. "And we do it together. That's the most human thing of all." As the Aquila prepared to leave the central chamber, the alien vessel sent one last sequence, a pattern that symbolized acknowledgement, respect, and invitation for future contact. Elias and Lyra understood. They had succeeded in their first real encounter with life beyond their solar system. And humanity had proven something essential. Even in the vast, unknown universe, humans could survive, adapt, and connect. Elias gripped the controls, his gaze steady. "Let's record everything. This is history. But it's also a reminder humans are capable of extraordinary things when we trust ourselves and each other." Lyra nodded. "And wherever we go next, we go together." As the Aquila glided back into the open expanse of space, leaving the alien vessel behind, both of them felt the thrill of triumph and discovery. Humanity had taken its first true step into the unknown. They had faced the alien, understood its intelligence, and earned its respect. And more than anything, they had proven that humans were not just survivors. They were explorers, thinkers, and ambassadors of curiosity and courage. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but Elias and Lyra no longer felt small. Humans had left their mark, and wherever the next challenge lay, they would meet it, armed with ingenuity, bravery, and heart. The first real test of humanity among the stars was complete, but the journey and the lessons they would learn were just beginning. The Aquila sailed through the calm darkness of space, leaving the alien vessel behind. Elias, Rain, and Lyra had spent hours studying the data from the encounter, reviewing the signals, the movements, and the strange but deliberate intelligence they had witnessed. The exhilaration of first contact still pulsed through their veins. Humans had faced the unknown, adapted, and succeeded. Yet space was never truly calm. "Elias," Lyra's voice cut through the quiet hum of the cockpit, sharp and tense. "I'm picking up an energy surge, massive solar activity, a storm heading straight for us." Elias leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the sensors. "How big?" "Bigger than anything in recorded history," she replied. "Radiation levels will overload the ship's shields. If we're not careful, we'll be vaporized before we can react." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the familiar spike of adrenaline. Danger was never far from humanity's path, but humans thrived on facing it. Then we don't wait. We survive. We adapt. Let's get ready. Lyra's fingers flew across the control panels. Shields were strengthened, energy reserves redistributed, life support systems optimized. The Aquila was built for human ingenuity, but even the best ship could be overwhelmed by the fury of a solar storm. Only human instinct, quick thinking, and courage could carry them through. "The storm is already expanding," Lyra said, eyes scanning the readouts. "We have 10 minutes before the outer waves hit. 10 minutes to survive what would destroy most ships." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then 10 minutes we'll have. Engage manual navigation, no AI autopilot. We fly with human skill." The first flare hit like a hammer. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Light filled the cockpit, dancing like fire across the walls. Sensors overloaded with radiation bursts, and systems flickered in and out of stability. The Aquila groaned under the assault. Lyra shouted above the alarms. "Hull integrity dropping! 50%! We need to move fast!" Elias gripped the controls, feeling every vibration as if the ship were alive and pleading for guidance. "Hold steady, Lyra. Trust the ship and trust us. Humans can do this." He twisted and tilted, weaving the Aquila through the violent currents of charged particles. Sparks flew across consoles as systems struggled to cope with the radiation. Every move required split-second calculations, instinct, and intuition. Automated ships would have failed, paralyzed by the chaotic storm. Humans thrived here in unpredictability. "Tilt starboard 20 degrees!" Lyra shouted. "Now increase aft thrusters! That's it! Hold it!" The ship lurched violently, spinning slightly as it passed through a flare the size of a small moon. Elias's muscles burned from constant tension, but his mind was sharp. Lyra's calculations guided him through the turbulence, her intuition complementing his instincts. Together they became one force, a human duo navigating chaos no machine could conquer. 20% hull integrity, Lyra warned. "Shields barely holding." Elias gritted his teeth. "We don't panic. We survive." Humans have always survived. Another flare struck, closer this time. The cockpit shook violently, lights flickering and warning sirens screaming. Elias's heart pounded, but he stayed calm, eyes fixed on the path ahead. He knew that hesitation would mean disaster. Lyra's hands flew over the panels, rerouting power to shields and thrusters. "We can do this! Focus on the gaps between flares. Anticipate their path, not just react." Elias nodded. He leaned into the ship's controls, reading the storm like a skilled pilot reading the wind. Humans were designed for unpredictability, for improvisation, for courage under pressure. The Aquila was powerful, but their human skill made the difference. Minutes stretched like hours as they danced with the solar storm, threading through energy waves, twisting currents, and bursts of charged particles. The ship shuddered, systems warned of imminent failure, and yet the duo pressed on. "You're doing amazing, Elias," Lyra shouted, her voice full of admiration and encouragement. "We're going to make it!" Elias smiled grimly, sweat dripping down his forehead. "We always do. Humans don't quit. Not ever." Another flare loomed ahead, larger and faster than the last. Elias held his breath, twisting the ship sharply to avoid the worst of it. Lyra's calculations were perfect, her timing precise. Together they threaded the needle, the ship shivering but intact. Then a massive surge hit directly, sending the Aquila spinning. The cockpit lights went out for a moment, leaving them in total darkness. The alarms screamed, systems flickered, and the hum of the engines threatened to die. "Elias!" Lyra shouted. "We can't let it hit full force. Divert every ounce of energy to shields." Elias acted instantly, his hands moving on instinct. He rerouted power, engaged emergency thrusters, and twisted the ship just enough to avoid the full brunt of the storm. Sparks flew across the control panels, but the ship survived. Lyra let out a long breath. That was close. Too close. Elias nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. But we did it. Humans survived. Humans always find a way. The storm began to subside slowly, its rage moving on past them. The Aquila floated, battered but functional, the systems stabilizing once more. Elias and Lyra shared a brief, exhausted look. They had faced one of the most dangerous natural phenomena in the universe. And lived. Lyra shook her head, smiling despite the exhaustion. Humans are insane. You know that? Elias laughed softly. Insane, yes. Brilliant, adaptable, and brave. Definitely that too. She leaned back in her seat, letting the tension drain. We couldn't have done this without each other. You know that, right? Elias smiled. Of course. Humans survive, but humans together thrive. That's the secret. For hours, they monitored the aftermath, making sure the ship was fully operational. Minor repairs were needed, but nothing that could not be handled. Every alarm, every flicker, every warning had been a test of human ingenuity, reflex, and trust. And they had passed. As they moved farther from the storm's path, the stars returned to their calm, twinkling state. Elias gazed out the viewport, feeling the vastness of space press around them. He realized that danger was a constant companion for humans exploring the unknown, but it was also a teacher, forcing humans to adapt, to invent, to survive. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. Elias, look at the readings. The alien vessel is responding to the storm. It adjusted its path to avoid the worst. They're cooperative. We're not alone in facing the dangers of the universe. Elias nodded. Humans aren't just surviving here. We're learning, interacting, and building connections. That's what makes humanity remarkable. We don't just endure. We influence, adapt, and thrive. Lyra smiled. And we do it together, always. They shared a quiet moment, the hum of the ship filling the cockpit. The solar storm had tested every skill they had. But it had also reaffirmed a truth. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when they trusted themselves, each other, and the instincts that machines could not replicate. Elias, Lyra said after a moment, do you realize what this means? We survived one of the deadliest forces in the galaxy. And we didn't just survive. We used it to show ourselves and the aliens what humans are capable of. Elias nodded, pride swelling in his chest. Exactly. Humans aren't the strongest or the fastest, but we're clever, adaptable, and brave. And when the universe tests us, we rise to the challenge. As the Aquila glided through calm space once more, they set their sights on the next waypoint, knowing that more challenges awaited. The solar storm had been a peril, but it had also been a lesson in human ingenuity, resilience, and partnership. Ready to continue? Elias asked, hands steady on the controls. Lyra grinned. Always. Whatever comes next, humans will face it, and we'll do it together. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a vast ocean of possibilities and dangers. Yet Elias and Lyra no longer feared it. Humans had faced the storm, adapted, and survived. The lesson was clear. No matter the danger, humans could endure, innovate, and thrive. And deep in the cockpit, amidst the hum of the Aquila, both knew that the universe would never underestimate humanity again. The storm had passed, but the journey, and the proof of human courage, had only just begun. The Aquila glided smoothly through the quiet stretches of space, its hull still bearing minor scars from the solar storm. Captain Elias Wren and Lyra sat side by side in the cockpit. Exhausted but exhilarated, they had faced the unknown, survived the storm, and made contact with an alien intelligence. Humanity had proven itself not just capable, but extraordinary. "Do you ever think about how small we are?" Lyra asked quietly, staring out at the stars. "And yet, we've done things no one thought possible." Elias smiled, leaning back in his seat. "Small, yes, but we've always made up for it with courage, intelligence, and stubbornness." He chuckled softly. "Mostly stubbornness." Lyra laughed. "I guess that explains why we survived a solar storm that could have destroyed half the fleet." He grinned, a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. "Humans are survivors, always have been, always will be, and not just because of machines or technology, but because of our brains, our hearts, and our willingness to try." They shared a quiet moment, letting the hum of the ship fill the silence. The galaxy stretched before them, vast, endless, and full of mysteries. Yet for the first time, space didn't feel hostile. Humans had carved a small, brilliant path through it. Lyra glanced at the data screens. "The alien vessel has sent one final signal. I think it's acknowledging us. Respect, maybe even trust. They've never encountered another species like humans before." Elias's heart swelled. "And we earned it. Not because we forced our way, but because we adapted, communicated, and showed what humans can do. That's who we are." The Aquila continued its journey homeward. Neoterra was distant now, a small blue and green marble glowing faintly below the endless black. Yet their hearts were full. Humans had taken the first real step into interstellar exploration, and the proof of their spirit and ingenuity would echo through history. Lyra looked at Elias with a soft smile. "Do you remember when you said, 'There's room for both of us in the car'?" Elias laughed, the memory bright in his mind. "I remember. And you smiled and said, 'Wherever you go, I'll be right behind,'" Lyra finished. She gave him a small, proud nod. "You led, and I followed. That's what humans do. Together." Elias's smile deepened. Together. That's the key. As the Aquila approached the outer orbit of Neoterra, Earth's atmosphere shimmered in welcoming light. The planet seemed calm and familiar, yet for Elias and Lyra it now felt different. They had seen the stars, faced the dangers of the void, and met life beyond humanity's world. Earth was home, but they had grown. Humans had grown. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," Elias said, voice steady. "We'll land at the main orbital station. Crowds will be waiting." Lyra tapped the controls, initiating descent procedures. "Life support stable. Hull integrity fully repaired from minor storm damage. Systems optimal." The Aquila descended through the atmosphere, clouds swirling around its sleek hull. The sky shifted from deep black to shades of blue, orange, and gold as the sun rose over Neoterra. Below, the orbital station came into view, bustling with ships and observers, eager to witness humanity's first explorers returning from beyond the known stars. As they approached the landing pad, a voice crackled over the comm. "Captain Elias Wren and Engineer Lyra, welcome back. Humanity is proud of you both. Your journey marks a new era for our species." Elias smiled at Lyra, who returned the gesture with equal pride. "We couldn't have done it without each other," he said quietly. Lyra nodded. "Humans survive, yes, but humans thrive together. That's why this matters." The Aquila touched down smoothly, its engines powering down with a soft hum. A crowd of scientists, engineers, and officials greeted them. Cameras and recording devices captured every movement, every expression. Yet Elias and Lyra were calm. They had faced the unknown, survived the storm, and made first contact with an alien intelligence. This moment, as grand as it seemed, was only a continuation of what humans had always done: explore, adapt, and succeed. As they stepped out of the ship, the applause was thunderous. Humans cheered not just for their survival, but for what they represented: ingenuity, courage, and the spirit of exploration. Children waved from the crowd, their eyes wide with wonder, imagining the stars and the possibilities that lay beyond. Elias raised a hand, a simple gesture of acknowledgement. "Thank you," he said. "Humans have always dared to reach for the unknown. Today we've taken the next step, and tomorrow we'll take another. That's what humanity does. That's who we are." Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining. "We didn't just survive. We learned, we adapted, and we connected. And we did it together. That's the human way." The crowd erupted again, voices rising in celebration. Humanity's first true interstellar explorers had returned, not just as heroes, but as symbols of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and collaboration combined. Later, in a quieter moment, Elias and Lyra walked through the landing bay, reflecting on their journey. The scars of the storm and the thrill of first contact lingered in their memories, but so did the lessons. Humans were not fragile. They were not easily defeated. They were adaptable, ingenious, and capable of extraordinary feats. Lyra glanced at Elias. "Do you think the aliens will ever visit us?" Elias shrugged, a thoughtful smile on his face. "Maybe, or maybe they'll watch from afar. Either way, humans prove something essential. We're alive, we're intelligent, and we're not afraid to reach for the stars." Lyra nodded. "And we'll keep reaching. Wherever we go together." Elias looked at her, a warmth in his chest. "Always. That's humanity. And that's us." As they looked up at the night sky, filled with countless stars, they understood something deeper. Humanity's journey was just beginning. The stars held dangers, wonders, and mysteries beyond imagination, but humans were ready. They had survived storms, navigated unknown worlds, and faced the vastness of space with courage and creativity. And most importantly, humans had each other. The Aquila would eventually be repaired, refueled, and sent out again. New missions would come, new dangers would appear, and new opportunities for discovery would arise. But the story of Elias and Lyra, the first humans to face the unknown and return victorious, would inspire generations. Humans were not merely survivors of the universe. They were explorers, creators, and dreamers. The city below glittered like a jewel as they walked back toward the celebration. Families cheered, young scientists waved, and children whispered stories of the brave duo who had reached the stars. It was a moment of triumph, of hope, and of promise. Elias glanced at Lyra. "You know, it all started with a joke. There's room for both of us in the car. Who would have thought it would lead us here?" Lyra laughed softly, and I smiled, just like I always promised. "Wherever you go, I'll be right behind." He shook his head in amazement. "Humans are strange. We laugh, we dream, we fight, we survive, and somehow we leave a mark on everything we touch." Lyra smiled warmly. "Exactly, and that's the lesson. No matter how big the universe, humans have heart, courage, and ingenuity, and we always rise to the challenge." Together they joined the crowd, walking side by side. The applause and cheers surrounded them, but inside, Elias and Lyra shared a quiet understanding. Humanity had taken its first true steps into the cosmos, and it had done so with intelligence, courage, and collaboration. The stars above twinkled, vast and infinite, but humanity was no longer small. Humans were explorers, innovators, and adventurers, a species capable of reaching beyond the known, facing the unknown, and returning stronger than before. And wherever the next adventure lay, Elias and Lyra would face it together. Humans always did. As the city celebrated below and the stars stretched endlessly above, the journey of humanity continued. The Aquila had returned, But its mission, and humanity's story, was far from over. Courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit would continue to shine, lighting the path for future generations. And in that moment, Elias whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else, "Humans are unstoppable." Lyra's voice echoed gently beside him, carrying the same truth. "Wherever you go, I'll be right behind." And with that, the next chapter of humanity's journey began.